My hands began to tremble before I even knew why. It was a Saturday morning just like any other, filled with the usual mess of cereal bowls and half-colored drawings. Then the package arrived, a late birthday gift from my parents to my daughter, Clara. She tore into the brown box, her eyes sparkling, and pulled out a pink dress with tiny embroidered stars. It looked almost exactly like one from my own childhood, a memory I hadn't thought about in years. Clara spun around, delighted, before she stopped cold. Her brows furrowed as she stared at the front of the dress. "Mommy," she whispered. "What is this?" The embroidery read, "To our little Charlotte." That's when I knew everything had just changed. Before I dive into my story, I'd really appreciate it if you could let me know where you're watching from in the comments. And if you'd consider subscribing to my channel, it would mean the world to me and help me keep sharing more stories like this. Thank you so much for being here. Amelia's hands began to tremble before she even knew why. A feeling that started in her fingertips and worked its way up her arms as she watched the brown cardboard box sit on the front porch. It was a Saturday morning, a soft, quiet start to the weekend, filled with the gentle clatter of breakfast dishes and the low hum of her husband, Mark, reading news articles on his laptop. He was so present, so calm, a quiet anchor in the beautiful chaos of their home. The box, with its one slightly dented corner, had Clara's name scrawled across the shipping label in her mother's familiar, careful script. It was a late birthday gift, Amelia thought, and she didn't give it much more consideration than that. She opened the door, brought the box inside, and set it on the kitchen table, right beside some half-finished cereal bowls and a unicorn drawing Clara had only half-colored. Her eyes lit up, as they always did whenever the mailman brought something with her name on it. She adored getting mail, a tiny pleasure in a world of grown-up burdens. Clara was wearing 2 different socks and still had a smudge of toothpaste on her chin. "Go on," I told her, my voice softer than I'd intended. "Open it." She tore at the packing tape with a determined little frown. Inside, wrapped in a single sheet of crisp white tissue paper, was a dress. Clara peeled the paper back and let out a small gasp. "It's a dress," she said, holding it up for everyone to see. It was pink, soft, with tiny embroidered stars scattered near the hem, the kind of thing you'd wear to a tea party or a third-grade piano recital. It was a dress that looked almost exactly like one I had worn in a faded photograph for my own 6th birthday, a memory I hadn't thought about in decades. A wave of nausea, sharp and unexpected, hit me. I could still smell the sweet, artificial scent of the plastic it came in, the way the crinoline scratched my legs. It wasn't my style, of course, but Clara looked at it like it was the most magical thing she had ever laid her eyes on. "Wow," Mark said, glancing briefly from his laptop. "Fancy." "She'll outgrow it in a few weeks, probably," Amelia replied, the word catching in her throat. Clara gave the hem a twirl, spinning herself around in a gentle circle, a moment of pure, innocent joy that felt like a knife twisting in my stomach. Then she stopped, not slowly, not with any drama. She just froze. She stared at the front of the dress as if it had spoken to her, her little brows furrowed in a deep question. "Mommy," she said, her voice small and uncertain. "What is this?" Amelia stood up and crossed the room. Clara turned the dress so I could see the front. And that was the moment, that exact second, when everything inside Amelia began to shake loose. There it was, in tiny white thread, embroidered in cursive right above the chest for our little Charlotte. Her name. The name we didn't speak in this house. My hands began to tremble before I even fully processed what I was seeing. The fabric in my grip seemed to vibrate with a memory that my mind had tried to bury. "What's wrong?" Clara asked, her voice a whisper now. Mark walked over and squinted at the stitching, a different kind of confusion on his face. "That's weird," he said. "Maybe they meant to personalize it and just got the name wrong." "Was it a mistake?" Clara asked, looking up at me, her eyes full of innocent inquiry. "Did they think I was someone else? Who's Charlotte?" Amelia didn't respond, not out loud. In my mind, a single, sharp thought cut through the trembling. We don't speak of Charlotte. It wasn't a rule. It wasn't forbidden. It was simply understood. It was the heavy, unspoken truth that had been the foundation of my life for as long as I could remember. It was the memory of a little girl, my sister, who had always been the sun, and I, the quiet moon orbiting in her light. It was a memory of a time she disappeared for 3 days when we were teenagers. A selfish, cruel act that had my parents frantic, and my father blaming me for not keeping an eye on her. She came back with a new boyfriend, a new piercing, and a nonchalant shrug. They were just so relieved to have her back. They never even asked why she left. That was Charlotte. She always had an excuse, and they always believed her. "I don't mind," Clara said, trying to console me. "It's still pretty. I can wear it even if the name's not mine." "No," I said, my voice quiet but leaving no room for argument. "You're not putting it on." The words were a physical ache in my throat. I took the dress, gently but with a finality that made the action feel much bigger than it was. I left the room, didn't slam anything, didn't explain. I just walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed, the dress still in my hands, its soft fabric a lie. I held it like a piece of evidence, a final betrayal. It was the same shade of pink, the same rounded collar, the same scattered stars. They didn't save the original dress, of course not. They had it custom made, a replica of Charlotte's dress, and then stitched her name on it, as if this were some kind of kindness, as if this were normal. My breathing grew shallow, that familiar feeling that my lungs weren't big enough for the air I was trying to take in. I held the dress in my lap like I was waiting for it to say something else. But there was only silence. Clara didn't follow me. She had learned, even at her young age, when to give her mother space. And I hated that I had to be a mother who needed space. I hated that this was the lesson she had learned. I stared at that name, and in the stillness, a cold resolve began to settle in my spine, a different kind of trembling. This was the line. After this, nothing would be the same, not between me and my parents. I didn't yell, didn't scream, didn't shed a single tear. Instead, I picked up my phone, still sitting on the edge of the bed with the dress beside me like a sleeping ghost. I opened my banking app, then another, and another, each one blinking open like a polite assistant asking what I needed. I canceled the monthly transfers I'd been making to my parents' account for years. The money I sent to help with their mortgage, their grocery card reloads, the monthly bill payments for utilities that I had quietly taken over. It was a quiet, mechanical, almost soothing process, like deleting old voicemails or tidying a closet full of things she no longer needed. I didn't pause to second-guess it. The numbers blinked on the screen. $750 for the mortgage, $400 for the credit card, $250 for the grocery store. Each click of the cancel button was a release, a small rebellion against years of silent obligation. The money was a burden, a chain I'd been dragging for years. First as a panicked act of love when I thought Charlotte's fraud had ruined them, and then as a quiet resignation. My body was operating on something older than thought, a primal instinct for self-preservation that had been dormant for too long. I left the apps open a few moments longer than necessary, just to remind myself that it was finally over. Then I stood up, folded the dress with care, laid it on the corner desk, and went to bed, a profound and unfamiliar sense of peace settling over me. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. Clara was still asleep, curled up in her bed with her unicorn drawing beside her. Mark was already up, blurry-eyed but in his work shirt, making coffee. "You sure?" he asked when he saw me holding the dress, now folded neatly into a plain brown paper bag. I nodded. "I won't be long." "Can you get her ready for school, of course," he said, not asking anything else, not needing to. He knew. Amelia added a handwritten note to the bag. 3 short sentences, each one heavier than it looked. "You lost one daughter. I'm the one who stayed. You just never noticed. Don't contact me again." The drive was quiet. Not long, but long enough for me to second guess it. But I didn't. I knew this was the right choice. I pulled up to their house. It looked exactly the same, which felt like a bad joke. Same overgrown rosemary bush out front, same cracked flower pot, same dent in the garage door from the year her dad tried to back out too fast on New Year's Eve. I got out, walked to the porch, set the bag down, and walked away. No doorbell, no angry knock, just me standing there, then turning my back for the final time. The first call came at 9 a.m., then another by 10. By 11, I had 6 missed calls and 2 voicemails. I stopped counting. I listened to one of the voicemails just to hear it. A part of me wanting to confirm the inevitable. It was my mother's voice, sharp with disbelief. "What is this? You're returning a birthday gift? What kind of message is that?" Then my father's voice in the background, a low, frustrated grumbling. "And what does she mean she's not going to pay anymore? What the hell is she talking about?" More calls, more texts. Some polite, some self-righteous. Most of them unanswered. I eventually listened to one message from my father that almost made me laugh. A single sentence that summed up a lifetime of being taken for granted. "We didn't know you cared so much about this kind of thing." At 12:27, I picked up the phone. I didn't know why. A part of me perhaps wanting to hear them say it to my face. "You're being cruel," my mother snapped, "not wasting any time. You're doing this to punish us for something that wasn't even our fault. Charlotte fooled all of us. And yet you keep asking me to pay for it," I said, my voice low and flat. "She's your sister. She was your favorite. Don't be petty." That almost made me laugh. "We lost her," my mother said, her voice quieter now. A practiced vulnerability. "You know that? We lost a daughter." "You didn't lose her," I replied, the coldness in my voice surprising even myself. "She stole everything you gave her and ran. So now you're going to take Clara from us?" Too, I sat with that, letting it echo for a moment. "You don't want Clara. You want Charlotte. You're just trying to find her in someone else?" "That's not fair." My mother said, "No," I replied. "What's not fair is that I was the one who stayed. I was the one who cleaned up after her, worked 2 jobs, sent you money every month, and none of it was ever enough." Was it there was silence on the other end of the line? "Exactly," I said. "You're being dramatic. I'm being done," I said. And then I hung up. I blocked their numbers, deleted all the calendar reminders, the rent help, the grocery card transfers, the water bill. I opened a blank spreadsheet and named it Things That Are Mine. It wasn't peace, not yet, but it was hers. She thought it was over, that the worst had already happened. She was wrong. The fire hadn't burned out. It had just changed shape. At first, it was noise, a wave of calls and texts from cousins, aunts, people she hadn't spoken to in years who suddenly found their voices. "You really cut your parents off over a dress. You need to talk to someone. This isn't normal. They're your family." The texts rolled in with the same rhythm, some polite, some self-righteous, some pretending to care. She ignored them all. And then came the call she never expected. Unknown number. Late afternoon. She almost didn't answer, but she did. "Hey," a voice said, and she froze. She hadn't heard that voice in 5 years, but her body remembered it immediately. It was Charlotte. "I heard you cut them off," she said. No small talk, no apology, just that. "They told you that," Amelia said, a statement, not a question. "Yeah, I've been talking to them there." And that was the part. The part they had never said. The part Amelia hadn't even thought to ask about. "You've been talking to them this whole time pretty much. Where have you been?" Charlotte hesitated. "Around. Around," Amelia repeated, the word tasting like ashes. "You vanished. Do you know what that was like? You didn't call. You didn't message. We didn't know if you were even alive." "I needed space," Charlotte said, the old lie polished to a new shine. "You needed money," Amelia replied. There was silence. She sat down slowly, her hands going still in her lap. You stole from us? You told us it was an investment, the wellness retreat, the organic products, the partnerships, it was all fake. Fake clients, fake invoices, fake everything. And you took every single dollar we gave you. I didn't mean to, Charlotte said. And for a second, Amelia almost believed her. You wrecked my credit. You opened accounts in my name. Do you know what that did to me? I had to work 2 jobs. I couldn't qualify for a mortgage. I had to put everything I wanted on hold so I could pay off what you did. Charlotte breathed in sharply but said nothing. You ruined us, Amelia said, her voice low and flat. And then you disappeared. I didn't know what else to do. Try starting with sorry. They need you, Charlotte said suddenly, deflecting as she always did. They're getting older. Things aren't easy. So why don't you help them? Amelia asked, a pause hanging in the air. It's complicated. I can't right now. Things have been tight. You were always the stable one. You have a job, a home, a family. You're good at this. Was I? Amelia asked, a bitter laugh in her throat. They don't say it, but they appreciate what you've done, Charlotte said. I just thought you should know. They're struggling, I already know, Amelia said. Then why cut them off? Because I'm tired. Everyone gets tired, Charlotte said. And for a second, she sounded almost human. But that doesn't mean you give up? No, Amelia replied. But it means I finally start choosing myself. Something you've always been great at. Charlotte didn't respond. Then if you want to throw everything away because you're angry, that's on you. And just like that, she hung up. The next morning, there was a knock on the door. It was early. Amelia was in the middle of making coffee. Mark opened the door before she had a chance to stop him. And there they were, her parents. Her mother held a cake box in both hands. Her father stood behind her like a statue, a burdened silence emanating from him. We just want to talk, her mother said. We're not here to argue. Amelia didn't invite them inside, didn't even take a step forward. She stood still in the kitchen, arms crossed, coffee mid-pour. You've been talking to Charlotte, she said. They didn't deny it. We have, her mother replied, her voice soft and defensive. For some time now. How long since the first year she left? So all this time she needed help and you needed money, which I gave you. And you used my money to help her. It wasn't like that. No, it was exactly like that. Her father spoke for the first time, his voice a low rumble. She's in trouble, he said. Serious trouble. She's afraid. She's always afraid, Amelia shot back. She made mistakes. She's your sister, and I'm your daughter. They didn't reply. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who helped. And you let me believe I was helping you when all along I was helping her. Her mother finally said, she's our daughter, too. So am I. Mark, who hadn't spoken since he opened the door, stood behind her now, arms folded, his expression unreadable. I think it's time for you to go, he said calmly. They didn't argue. They just looked at Amelia, as if she were the one who had broken something. It's been over a year since that morning. I haven't heard a word from them. No calls, no texts. Nothing from their side, and nothing from mine. The silence isn't cold. It's just a different kind of quiet. I heard through someone. A second cousin, maybe, or one of those distant family acquaintances who still think group emails count as personality. That Charlotte came back. Apparently, things abroad didn't pan out. When the money dried up, so did the stability. She's living with my parents again. It all adds up. She always knew where to fall. They're selling the house now. Too much upkeep, too many expenses. It's not the first time she's left them drained, but it might be the first time they've realized it. I didn't ask where they're going because I don't want to know, and Clara doesn't bring them up anymore. She used to, small things like whether Grandma would come to her next recital, but eventually the questions faded. Children understand more than we think. Now, it's just us, the three of us. Sunday mornings mean pancakes. Clara blasts music while brushing her teeth. Mark fixed that cabinet hinge I ignored for years. And I sleep now. Really sleep. The kind where you wake up and feel like you're somewhere safe. Not just a place where you happen to land. There's no pink dress in the closet. No silent comparisons in the air. Just Clara being Clara. Just me. Finally. Something other than the one who stayed.